Yeah, Laura and the team asked me to come present on landowner engagement for drinking water protection. Because in a lot of instances, the source water watershed is outside of the jurisdiction of the water providers, so landowner engagement is a great tool to use to protect drinking water. I know a lot of you come from very different watersheds, and there's a lot of different ownerships and sizes and where source water comes from, so there's no strategy that, one strategy that fits all, and I'm hoping that this presentation feeds you with ideas, and you might find kind of a mishmash of strategies that work for you. Next. I'm Miranda Gray. I'm, as Laura said, Water Resources Extension Educator with OSU Extension. I am based in Gold Beach, but I cover Coos and Curry counties. I was, prior to this new role, the South Coast Watershed Council Coordinator for about 5 years. So I'm familiar with water issues and partners on the South Coast generally, but that's more from the watershed restoration and landowner engagement angle, and less so from the water provider drinking water angle. So I also hope that this presentation is more kind of the start of an exchange of ideas. And OSU Extension, for those of you who are not too familiar, provides information and expertise to help meet local challenges, and we like the work that we're doing to really meet the needs of local communities. So I'm still getting to know what the local challenges are, especially around drinking water, so more than happy to meet with any and all of you one-on-one following this presentation. We also like to bring, Extension likes to bring resources from the university, whether that be like workforce capacity or research, to meet those local needs. So it's just a great resource to have within the local community. Next. So I'll talk about 4 engagement strategies that I came up with based on working examples across the state and my own experience and communications. Those are to understand who are the key partners in your watershed, make contact and start building relationships, find and focus on mutual benefits, and use specific projects as opportunities to collaborate. And I'll go through all of these. The first, probably a lot of you are already pretty familiar with who owns watershed within your source water area. But I wanted to, Retna touched on a lot of the GIS tools, but just want to reiterate that just start exploring your watershed. What are the other natural resource issues and activities that are going on in that watershed? Yeah, we've talked more about kind of those like issues of concern, like contaminants, and the ways that you can go through your source water assessments, but I'll focus a little bit more here on understanding the ownerships within your watershed. So one tool that I really like to use, if you click that first link there, it should pop up. One of the web map viewers that I like to use is called the Oregon Water Map Viewer. It's through the Oregon Explorer website, so you can just Google Oregon Explorer and then search for the Oregon Water Map Viewer. I'm not sure what the internet connection here is like, but that's alright. If this doesn't work, I'll just talk through it. But the reason I like this tool specifically is you can upload your own data to it. So I find it really useful. Like Coos and Curry counties both have their own web mapping applications that host parcel level data. So you can go into those county level applications, pull the parcel data, and drop it into this water map viewer and look at the parcels. overlaid on your source water area. And you can click on those parcels and figure out exactly who are the landowners. You can go back to the slides, that's fine.
Sorry, I'm just gonna try and pull it up in Chrome to see if I get this.
So that second link was just showing the Curry County web mapping application. And I'll just, if you're interested in taking this approach, just let me know and I'll walk you through it. Yeah, you can go back to the slides. And then I've also, if this link works, put together a list of key contacts within our area, representing all of these different ownerships and technical assistance providers. So it's definitely a work in progress. I didn't print it out because I wanted folks to have an opportunity to make edits today, and I have a hard copy here, so if you have time throughout the day to check it out and see if the contact information is correct, that'd be really helpful. But there are, starting at the very top, there's federal land managers for the Forest Service and BLM, and those are good first points of contact if you have federal lands in your ownership or in your watershed to reach out to regarding drinking water issues. Jeff Jackson from the BLM is here today. I also put in, if you have private forest land in your watershed and are interested in understanding who are the more local boots on the ground land managers, a great first point of contact is the Department of Forestry. Quinn Allen and Jacob are here today representing Curry County. So introduce yourselves to them if you have a chance today and if you want to make those connections. Department of Agriculture, ODA, they are kind of the equivalent if you have private agricultural lands in your watershed and are interested in making contact with those landowners. They can be a good first contact. And then watershed councils, soil and water conservation districts, land trusts, natural resource conservation service are all, they do a lot of outreach with private landowners generally, so are just a great first touch point, and there are a lot of representatives here from all of those entities. And then I've also tried to list all of the water providers on the South Coast, and this is probably where I got a lot of information wrong, so please try to check that out. And go back to the slides. The second strategy is to make contact and build relationships, which sounds straightforward, but really finding ways to maintain consistent communication with partners and landowners can start building that foundation for relationships. And really the land and the resource managers that I mentioned on that contact list don't really have the expertise that the water providers do, and vice versa. Water providers don't really have the expertise in the land management challenges. So having that shared expertise and starting to build those relationships is really important. Some ideas for doing that are to schedule recurring meetings or site visits, join a local watershed council, or water board even, groups that meet on a regular basis to talk about management issues. Request to be on an agency contact list. The Forest Service and the BLM have to go through the National Environmental Policy Act for activities on their lands, and they have to solicit public comment. So you can request to get on those NEPA mailing lists and stay informed of activities that are going on federal lands and provide comment if necessary. I think you can also go to like the DEQ website and request to be on permitting mailing lists, so you're aware of when regulatory permits are going in and you might be able to provide comment there. Send out annual mailers or bill stuffers to your customer base, or host or participate in workshops are also ways to start making contact. So I've thrown some examples in here just to start illustrating these engagement strategies. The first comes from Oceanside, which is a small community on the north coast. It is also a small watershed that is almost entirely within private industrial timberland ownership. And the Oceanside Water District and these two timber companies have started meeting on a regular basis to identify issues that come up, and what's come out of this is a communication protocol that Stimson Lumber and Green Cow Corporation follow. They adhere to, so they notify the water district directly and well ahead of any forest operations to let the district know if there's herbicide spraying or if there's forestry operations, so that the water district can then shut down their intake or take other precautionary measures. So just a good example of proactive partnership communication. Next slide. This next case study comes from the city of Myrtle Point, and thank you to Anna for getting me this information with the Coquille Watershed Association. So the North Fork Coquille River Subbasin is the source watershed for the city of Myrtle Point. You can see that it's a really diverse mix of ownerships, and so the Watershed Association and whose SWCD are in the beginning planning phases of an engagement project to start reaching out to landowners within the subbasin. If you go to the next slide, it has a little bit more about the details of this project. So the goal is to establish and strengthen community relationships in the North Fork subbasin to assist in the strategic planning of future projects for watershed and community resilience. So they'll be looking to hire a facilitator that has specific skills around consensus building and working with those diverse ownerships to develop an outreach plan and materials, and then they'll be conducting outreach within the subbasin to start increasing the scope and the scale of restoration and monitoring, and also providing more technical assistance and education to landowners. Did I get that mostly right, Anna? If you have more questions about that project, Anna would be a great person to talk to. Next slide. The third engagement strategy is to find and focus on overlapping interests. And these are 3 examples. So, for example, reducing treatment costs for community systems and improving land and water management. Land management practices like stream bank stabilization or residential well water protection or road improvements, these are all land management practices that improve the use of the land, but they also can reduce treatment costs that are associated with things like turbidity or nitrate contamination. So they have these mutual benefits, and they are great opportunities for water providers and land managers or landowners to collaborate or cost share, since they're both gonna reap the benefits from it. Water conservation for community systems, and also lowering costs for the consumers. So maybe sending out bill stuffers that that specifically lead to suggestions of conserving water and also lowering water utility bills for the consumers. Just an idea. Also increasing drinking water and forest resilience to wildfire. And the next case study comes out of Ashland and illustrates this specific strategy of focusing on mutual benefits around reducing wildfire risk and protecting drinking water quality. So the city of Ashland is mostly within U.S. Forest Service ownership, and the 4 partners listed there, the Forest Service, the City of Ashland, the Nature Conservancy, and Loma Katsi Restoration, have formed, I think it's called the Ashland Forest Resiliency Project, to reduce wildfire risks and improve the drinking water resilience. So they have entered into what's called a Master Stewardship Agreement. If you click on that first Ashland MSA, And a master stewardship agreement is a tool that's available to Forest Service and BLM. If you just scroll down to maybe the first page there. In the background, so in that second paragraph there, it's a tool that that those agencies can use in partnership to achieve land management goals for the national forests or rangelands that meet local and rural community needs. So it's basically like a mechanism by which local agencies can take a little bit more management, say, over federal lands. And it's also a way to bring in more funding under this master stewardship agreement. So all projects that come in under this agreement have to go through a collaborative process with those 4 entities, and it streamlines the transfer of money to projects. There's another example down there that's separate from the Ashland, but I thought I'd show it. It's a memorandum of understanding between the city of Sandy. Actually, that won't work. I'll just talk about it. The city of Sandy and the BLM and Forest Service, I think. So it's also a formal agreement, but it doesn't involve any like exchange of funds. It's just it's a non-binding legal document that highlights like shared commitments or coordinated efforts between entities on the agreement. So it might be a good option. I was thinking about you, Mercedes, like when Forest Service or BLM aren't involved, and you might want to create an agreement with a private landowner. And if you're interested in seeing that MOU, it's got good language. There's a lot of them out there that might be good examples. And then number 4, use specific projects as opportunities to engage. So an MOU or a master agreement might seem too daunting, but there are always these little projects, maybe not little, but individual projects that may be related to monitoring or restoration, outreach, education, that are still opportunities to build partnership, to become more informed of some of the issues in the watershed, to learn about ways that managers are dealing with those issues. Great opportunities, again, to collaborate and be informed on. The next slide is case study from Matt Swanson. Got me this information, thanks. The city or the community of Langlois is a small unincorporated community just to the north of us, and their source water comes from Flores Creek. It's another fairly large watershed that's a mix of private industrial and non-industrial, and the Curry SWCD and the South Coast Watershed Council have been spearheading restoration efforts in this watershed to enhance riparian areas around the water intake and also reduce sediment delivery from the upper watershed. And being a really small water board with very limited staff capacity, Matt, as the project lead, has gone and presented to the water board to keep them informed and engaged, and they in turn can provide support for the projects and understand better what's going on. Even providing a letter of support to some of these restoration projects goes a long way in securing grant funding to get the restoration accomplished. And then last slide, I believe, is also from Anna, and highlights just more generally the types of restoration projects that also serve to improve drinking water quality and might be the types of projects that water providers would like to get more engaged in, such as in-stream wood structures, boulder structures to collect sediment, riparian enhancements, livestock exclusion, fencing, and off-channel watering facilities to keep the livestock out of the rivers, wetland restoration, stream bank stabilization, road improvements, and then also watershed councils are usually very involved in monitoring of water quality, more so for the restoration projects, but there might be interest and overlap in those monitoring programs for drinking water quality. So those might be good projects, programs to get involved in. That's it. Questions?